Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Star Citizen Alpha 3.7 is with the EVOCATI, the early test group of players, and should go to wider PTU, Public Test Universe, shortly. I wanted to talk in a bit more detail about what's in the update, what we know about of its new gameplay mechanics, and what we can expect from the patch. So, Alpha 3.7 is currently with the EVOCATI, and I'm unable to talk about the specifics of the EVOCATI testing patch as it is at the moment, because I'm an EVOCATI member, and I'm under NDA specifically for what's being tested in that patch specifically. However, Alpha 3.7 does look like it's going to most certainly ship with all its intended features, and potentially some more. We'll have to wait and see, though we don't have confirmation of when the patch is exactly going to be going to wider PTU and live. It's supposed to be going to live by the end of September. 3.7 became a little lighter on content due to CIG's staggered development pivot and to sort of like more appropriately meet deadlines, get patches in a much better state, more polished, more playable before they go out, and we have a lot of information on the mechanics for 3.7 and how they're going to work. Typically, I would be grumpy and complainy that I can't cover EVOCATI leaks, but most of the information about the patch is actually on the roadmap or been made available from shows like Inside Star Citizen, which is awesome. Alpha 3.7 is in an interesting place though. It's sort of part of the new staggered development model that has teams working on features for a given patch for 6 months, typically, rather than 3. There are already teams working on 3.8, for example, which is the end of year patch, and when the teams are finished with 3.7, the patch that's just about to go live, they will move straight on to 3.9, and then when the other teams are done with 3.8, they move on to 4.0. Obviously, they will move some teams around and sort of like have them supporting changing priorities, but that's the typical sort of like overlap period. There's 6 months of them working on each patch and then they move on to the patch after that. So there's effectively teams working on the next 2 major patches at any given time. So this should allow for CIG to make deadlines more accurate, as well as having less features slip from the roadmap, and features should be more fleshed out and more playable even in their first implementation. More generally, CIG wants Star Citizen to have less bugs and be more playable. However, 3.7 is on the cusp of this change, and it's uncertain how playable and polished 3.7 will be. Hopefully, they will be able to get missions consistently working, AI and NPCs and combat in ships and on the ground, working in a state that's not jittery or frustrating. Let's talk about some of the new features and new gameplay loops that we're going to have with 3.7. Caves are new points of interest that will be appearing all over planets and moons in the game. Caves are built from modular pieces like the rest stops, but obviously are more organic looking because they're a cave. There are 3 types of cave in 3.7, explored, unexplored, and a secret type. Unexplored caves won't have structures or man-made lights or boxes or that sort of loot there, but they might have more mineable entities there. These points of interest will require players to explore them, and that exploration should reward players for doing so. I'm expecting that missions will be hooked up to these points of interest to caves in 3.7, so you might have to retrieve cargo, black boxes, or other items from within caves. They have also made throwable, purchasable glow sticks for use in dark areas now as well, so you can interact with them and you can chuck them around. There's also improvements being made to the flashlight, so previously the flashlight was culling through all the effects and atmosphere and washing out scenes, so they've sort of like made something that allows you to see in the dark, but doesn't ruin the atmosphere of the cave scenes. In regard to minables and FPS mining in caves and that sort of stuff, I really think that this should have a different name, like on foot mining or by hand mining or multi-tool mining. So this allows you to mine smaller ore nodes using a multi-tool and a mining attachment for it, which you can buy and equip. The mechanic is a streamlined version of the mining sort of mechanics in a prospector. You have to find nodes by sight though, rather than scanning, although you can use a prospector to scan for an asteroid, and those nodes are likely to spawn on asteroids as well, but basically these nodes can appear just in caves or on mineable asteroids in space. When you're at a node, you will aim down sights with your multi-tool, with the multi-tool mining attachment, and that will allow you to scan the rock and giving you sort of details about its contents and how hard and how dangerous that rock is. You will need to fire your multi-tool beam at the rock using mouse wheel, I assume, to change the power level. If you use too little power, nothing happens. Too much, the rock will go boom. You sort of like want to find a sweet spot. and then if you keep it within that sweet spot for long enough, you'll successfully mine that node, and valuable materials will literally drop out of it. You'll then literally be able to immediately pick those up and place those within your personal commodity inventory. So this allows you to store various commodities and items bought from kiosks and stores and harvestables that you've discovered in the environment, and you can store different amounts of commodity based on your armor. You can pick up and drop individual things looted directly from what effectively is a backpack or pockets. And then you can also bundle all of the sort of items, commodities in your inventory together and drop them as a cargo box. You can sell straight out of your personal inventory or one of these cargo boxes if they're in a cargo grid of a ship. There are lots of other lootables and harvestables that have value that you can find in 3.7. Fruit, dung, circuit boards, plants, lots and lots of findables. Some of these will be found on caves, some on the surface of planets and moons, some of them in bushes and trees, or inside outposts and bunkers. The mining tool and mining attachment for that are available for a very low amount of alpha EBC, or at least expected to be a very low amount of alpha EBC in the live build. These mechanics are not gated by what ships you own and should allow players a lot of grinding and busy work that's actually quite fun and rewards exploration and searching areas. It's sort of like one of the main pillars of Star Citizen to me, having things to do, having a bit of intrigue and exploration behind mechanics that aren't necessarily directly tied to a mission. And with missions in mind, mission sharing is one of the features I have longed for Star Citizen since Alpha 3.0, and in 3.7, players will have the ability to share missions with parties, allowing them to see shared objectives and share in the rewards for those missions. It's also expected that there will be additional missions, and the difficulty of some of these missions might increase, or at least lend themselves to being done in a group or with multi-crew, sort of like that multi-crew gameplay, that sort of stuff. That's an expectation. It's not on the roadmap, but it makes sense that if they're going to have shareable missions, they might as well have harder missions or more enemies on these missions, or bigger ships on some of those missions. And it's not likely that those missions will scale up to your group size, but it's more likely that missions will just, in their description, have a difficulty effectively and recommend how many players or crew that you should bring, or at least the sort of like text there should tell you. They didn't want to do sort of mission scaling that automatically scales to your group size. They wanted to have it so players go, oh, I should probably bring these ships along, or I should do this. You have the choice about how to deal with the particular mission that you have been set. Hover mode is being replaced with IFCS proximity assist and VTOL engine toggle, so they've been trying to improve hover mode. Basically, they thought hover mode wasn't the appropriate solution, and people didn't really like it in 3.6. Well, it was obviously not true of everyone. Some people enjoyed it. I did not. I thought it was a bit too fiddly. Now, when you're in atmosphere and close to an object, your acceleration will automatically adjust so that you're basically moving slower and more precisely the closer you are to the ground or to terrain or buildings or whatever. But this only activates if you're slowing down anyway, so you can still fly at high speed when you're close to the ground if you want. But if you're literally slowing down, then it's going to allow you to land and move around without like moving suddenly and erratically. It's my hope that this is a much better solution than hover mode was, and hopefully again resolves the issues that me and many players had with it. CIG said for a while that they're going to have a small team working on updates for Arena Commander and Star Marine, and that appears to have been happening for 3.7. We have a new Star Marine map, the Good Doctor, which is supposed to be a clean-looking, fast and close quarter sort of map. In lore, it's situated on Lear 2 in the Lear system, and you might have heard of the Lear system before because Lear 3 is where that sandworm is, and where we saw the sort of like first proper gameplay teaser of procedural planets. Pirate Swarm is getting an overhaul with its waves and difficulty to make it challenging and more enjoyable for varying skills of players. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're actually doing with that once it gets to the live build. We know there is new updates to the character customization system, allowing players for much more control over making their character, and some UI improvements for that as well. This will also allow for more variation in NPCs as well. They're going to be adding new heads and things like that as we go forward. Ship rentals are in 3.7, allowing players to rent many of the flyable ships in-game for up to a month at a reasonable alpha EBC cost. We will have to wait to see exactly how these prices will be balanced by the live build. This is also true of missions, lootables, minables, and harvestables. I would hope that we will see a good balancing of that, because if lootables aren't valuable enough, no one's going to actually loot. If minables, the FPS minables aren't worth mining, no one's going to loot them. So you need to have that sort of balanced, and that's going to be based on, are they valuable compared to how much it costs to get things, and how easy is it to grind through other missions. So I'd hope to see new sort of like trade routes and other commodities pop up as well, so we can have different types of cargo hauling, and we'll see if anything else gets added to the law system, because some of these lootables that you might find might be prohibited goods or might be illegal. The Vanguard, Harbinger and Sentinel are flyable in this patch as well, and we should be seeing various nose weapons for the Vanguards that can be equipped and purchased too, specifically for them. The Banu Defender, again, is here. It was delayed multiple times and even caused the Cutlass Blue to be further delayed, but it's our first Banu ship in the game. It's a 2-seater escort fighter with those Banu singes. It should have a good amount of firepower. It's suspected that the coming soon mystery ship that CIG have been teasing for the last week could be flyable with 3.7. The most likely thing really at the moment looks like this is going to be the RSI Mantis heavy fighter, and we're seeing more and more of the ships slowly revealed each day. It's not confirmed that it's that, but it looks like it could quite possibly be that. It's not confirmed that that is going to be flyable either. It just looks quite possible. FPS weapons have more attachment choices with 3.7, including suppressors, compensators, and other underbarrel gadgets. There is a new salvo frag pistol, and ship weapon-wise, there's the Kroneg FL-33 laser cannon. There are some much-needed AI improvements coming in 3.7 as well. They are implementing the second iteration of average ship AI, including behaviors and skill differentiation per faction, to create a more diverse combat experience, including smart selection of targets for the AI. When I talk about factions, I'm talking about security forces, or compared to how the pirate forces sort of like work and interact with each other and fight you, which provides a more realistic reaction to the player's actions and that sort of stuff as well. FPS AI combat is improving the AI initial reactions to different types of stimulus. Is a player heard? Is a player seen? What was the NPC doing at the time? Was it just they had a little bump or a footstep, because they might not react in the same way as if they had a gunshot? And obviously AI is supposed to have these sort of like schedules. They're starting to put those schedules in now. We are expecting to see improvements with the sort of like general AI fixes and that sort of stuff as well. Better tactics being used, more appropriate tactics being used by AI. There is going to be general performance improvements and bug fixing too. Now, depending on how much they're able to do with that, really is going to make or break 3.7 for me. If I can play all the missions and share all the missions, and the NPCs aren't broken, and I don't crash all the time, and there isn't game-breaking bugs, and there's enough missions to do, and there's a level of difficulty there, and I'm rewarded for exploration, then great. I'd like to see a bit more of balance with sort of like general combat and auto gimbals. They did say that they were going to allow for size 1 mounts to be gimbaled to allow for starter ships to use size 1 auto gimbals as well, so that's something that they were thinking of doing. But how do you think we should refer to FPS mining? I quite like the term multi-tool mining. I think that that's less vague and less ambiguous. How playable do you think Alpha 3.7 is going to be? Do you think they'll make 3.7 live by the end of September, or do you think it will be delayed by a week or so before the live build? Do you think it's a good idea for CIG to focus on getting patches in a more playable and polished state at this stage? Do you think it's going to aid in the game's development or slow it down? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. We've got an Anvil Carrot giveaway this month. Just make sure that you comment on any of my videos made during September to be in for a chance of winning that. This ship was donated by the organisation Ultra. More details of the giveaway and that organisation down below. I'm also shilling for Shadow. They provide a service so that you don't need to have your own gaming PC. You literally use the power of the internet to remote access one effectively, and then you can use your phone or trashier PC or whatever to connect to that, and then that can give you a great gaming experience. There's also NordVPN if you're looking for a VPN. I really love Nord. They're very, very inexpensive, and they give you a lot more power than a free VPN would when it comes to security and being anonymous. Use the code BoredGamer if you're interested in using any of those services. You'll get discounts. Also, just down below, there's links to help support the channel. If you want to be a Patreon, if you want to be a YouTube member, it all really helps. But sharing videos, feedback, all of that sort of jazz really helps me too. Thanks very much for the love, guys. You take care, and I'll see you in the verse.